Hi, good evening. How you doing? This evening's devotional comes out of the book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 14. So if you want to read along, go ahead and dig into your Bible app or physical Bible and let's go on. So Esther 4:14 says, "For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Now, the book of Esther is an incredible story. What Esther and Mordecai have to go through, and the entire plot of the rescue and the power, and just the whole entire story of what God does in the book of Esther is incredible. But in order to understand the book of Esther, let's look at a little bit of history behind it, okay? So, first off, there were Jews who were still living in Persia between the years of 486 and 465 BC, and they were most likely being under the reign of King Xerxes I. Now, the Jews were first exiled to Babylon after the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in the year of 586 BC. And then the Babylonians were eventually conquered by the Persians in the year 539 BC. So when that happened, the Persians established a new king, King Cyrus the Great, and he issued what was called the Edict of Cyrus, which was basically allowing all the Jews to return back to their homeland in Judah, which then also gave them the ability to restore the temple in Jerusalem. So what's cool is that the evidence of this can actually be read in the book of Ezra, which I also recommend going and taking a look at too. Now, a fun fact about the book of Esther is that God isn't called upon by name in this book. Like, his evidence of his work and what he does and his power are throughout the entire story, but he's never once referenced in the book of Esther, right? Like, God doesn't come down and say something, or nothing is like directly attributed up to God of what happens, but the story and the evidence of how Esther and Mordecai go from where they began to the overall protection that God gives them, it's more than evident throughout the entire story. So, you see, the story of Esther is a powerful testimony within the scriptures. It tells about how Esther risked her life in order to save the people of God from danger. Now, Esther came down to having the ultimate decision. Does she do what's easy or does she do what's difficult? And she was human, I mean, she had her own decisions she had to make, just like everyone else. Do we do what's easy? Do we do what's difficult? And in this situation, Esther chose to do the difficult path. Even though the easy way would have been so much more rewarding immediately, the hard path had so much more reward to gain in the end. So Esther 4:14 points out to us that Esther's purpose for her life was tied to this very exact moment. You see, God had crafted and shaped her exactly as he needed Esther to be to fulfill his purpose for her generation of people, to make his plan become that much more evident in everyone's lives. You see, God had crafted and picked her specifically to be put in that unique situation. And that's kind of cool, because God does that for everyone, right? Like God crafts everybody to be put in unique situations that is only designed for us to be put into. And even though there might be similar situations or similar choices that people have had to make, that position or that situation is very unique to just those individuals in that moment, right? Just like Esther. Now, most people aren't going to be servants in the house of a king or a queen, or we're going to have the kind of job where we have to answer to some sort of like high authority, like a yes sir, no sir kind of thing, unless you're in the military or some type of like rigid structured type of job like that. But we're all going to have difficult decisions that we have to make in our lives, and every day we're going to be faced with some of those answers that they're going to be easy, and some of the answers are going to be kind of difficult. And that's the ups and downs of life. Sometimes it's hard to choose because it's easy to do what's wrong and it's hard to do what's right. More often than not, we do what's wrong because it might be a quick fix to a situation, or it might be a temporary pleasure that we like. But we ultimately feel bad about it because we know it's wrong. And then it's often hard to do what's right because we might be the only person doing that thing. There might not be anyone else doing it with us. And that in itself is scary. But as we read through the story of Esther, we get to learn that God has gifted each one of us for a very specific purpose in His plan. Now, even though the journey of life isn't going to be easy, I mean, it never is. It's not promised to be easy. But God does promise that He's going to be with us every single step of the way. Regardless of what that path may look like, God will walk with us everywhere we go. It doesn't matter where we're going today, where we're going tomorrow, where we were yesterday. God is going to be with us through the highs and through the lows, no matter what. Now, another cool thing about the book of Esther is that she also didn't accomplish her purpose on her own. She had an entire community of people that was fasting and praying for her to be able to see her through the situation that she was uniquely put into. Right? And just like Esther, we also need to have a community of believers that we can rally around and rally around us, right? We need people that can lift us up, who will pray with us, who will even fast with us whenever we need to draw on our relationship to be stronger with God. And they need us just as much because we do the same thing for them. So think about your story. Right? And think about how that might be similar to Esther's. Look at the people, places, and things that God has placed in your life and has put you into. See how unique those situations are and that purpose that God has created specifically just for you. Stay blessed, my friends.